What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily as we continue to dive into the Boston Celtics offseason. And it hurts a little bit more as I watched last night the New York Knicks come back again from a 20-point lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. I do take some comfort in knowing that they did this to another team and not just the Celtics. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But you want to know what's not making me feel better? The cost of the Celtics roster heading into next season. I've been trying to get myself excited to see what kind of potential moves Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics front office could make to kind of just rebuild this, like an instant rebuild. I'm not saying from scratch, but moving a couple of pieces around to still be able to compete while we wait and pray for Tatum's Achilles to just heal up as fast as possible. Yet, after doing a little bit of homework, it seems like it's going to be very expensive. I feel like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, or like A Beautiful Mind looking through the matrix trying to see what these numbers are going to look like. But right now, as is, the current Celtics roster costs $231 million. We have some extensions kicking in like Tatum and Hauser. Now, that's just the roster. Now, when you talk about that annoying thing called the collective bargaining agreement and the second apron, not only does the roster cost $231 million, the tax for that is $263 million. So we're looking at, doing some math, $494 million. Now I'm nervous I got that wrong. That's what we're looking at, $494 million for a team that is not going to have their best player. So again, even Wyc Grousbeck, before he sold the team to Chisholm, was kind of saying, hey, this is not a sustainable thing. Some cuts are going to have to be made. We can't continue to just shell out that type of money. Because the other thing that's going to start happening, and this is what some of you have already pointed out in the comments and other videos that we've done, is because they're above that second apron, it starts to limit some of the moves that they can make, right? So one of the things that'll happen if they continue to stay over the second apron, if they continue to get that repeater tax, they'll eventually start getting their first round picks frozen, right? Which seems unfair. And you know who you can blame? Grant Williams and CJ McCollum, who were the vice presidents of the Players Union, of Players Association, when they voted on that. So come on, Grant, I'm going to make them both. Come on. If they don't get under it too, the other thing that they won't be able to do, and this is where you all really started pointing it out, it makes it tough to aggregate contracts in order to make a deal, right? So say somebody like Kevin Durant, who's making, I'm just going to throw out a number, $52 million a year, right? Normally what you'd be able to do if you wanted to match those contracts, you could trade a player making, $25 million and another player making $27 million. But they're not able to do that when you are repeating that second apron infringement. So it has to kind of be a one for a one. So we would need someone that made exactly $52 million in order to do it. So that's another reason they kind of need to get out of that. They also lose out on the mid-level exception, the mid-level trade exception. They won't be able to use the full price of that. You might remember, I believe, was it Gordon Hayward? I can't remember how long ago it was, where they had like $14 million, up to $14 million they could take on. I think right now the one that they would be able to use is Jaden Springer, and now they won't be able to if they're over the second apron. So financially, they've just put themselves in a really tough spot. And again, if you think about ownership, I'm not sure if they, want to go $263 million into the tax for a team that has like the upside of maybe a second round playoff team next year without Tatum. So that's going to be one of the situations that they're really going to have to monitor. The other thing that they're running into is if they bring Luke back and Al Horford back, each contract, it's got like, even though their money would be a little bit cheaper, it would cost them at least $25 million per, just in like the tax stuff. So that means it's $50 million to keep both Luke and Al Horford. So I do think like both the front office and us, the fans, are going to have to start looking in the mirror and be like, man, what are we going to do here? I don't think we see both Luke and Al Horford back. I love Al Horford. I think he's just a great leader, a consummate professional, future Hall of Famer, NBA champion. But Al, listen, man, you're like close to my age. I don't know, maybe like pick up some golf, like get into shuffleboard or something. I see a lot of people into shuffleboard. It might be time to retire, Al, or like come on the coaching staff. We could put you next to Joe Mazzulla so Joe can say some crazy stuff and you could be the calming presence with the beautiful eyelashes, right? Now, Luke Cornett, I love. I'm a huge Luke Cornett fan. I think he might be the funniest person in the league right now. I want Luke to stay. I want him to retire a Celtic. But man, $25 million for Luke Cornett is a lot of money just for the year. I really don't know how the Celtics are going to approach it. And they kind of have three options. I was listening to Bobby Marks from ESPN. They kind of have three, or technically four different options, but we'll go over three of them for this upcoming season. Now, one of them is to run it back. Now, maybe Bill Chisholm is like, hey, I'm trying to win over the Boston faithful, okay? I'm the new billionaire in town, and I want to show you I can make it rain, make it rain, make it rain on them. You can fill it in, right? Maybe that's what he wants to do, to just show the Celtic pride and just run it back, bring everybody back. Let's give one more go at it, even without Tatum. Although, there's like 5% of the population out there, the Celtics population or the medical population, that's like, Tatum got that surgery pretty early. He could be back as early as February. I don't want that to happen because when Tatum comes back, I want him to be 100% healthy. I want him to look like Superman, right? Since he was in those commercials, I want him to be 100%. I don't want to be like staring at his feet like I'm on a OnlyFans account, right? I want to make sure my dude is okay by the time he gets back on the floor. But anyways, maybe Chisholm wants to do that. Maybe. But I just don't think your first year owning the team, right after they get bounced in the second round, you want to be spending more in the tax than you are in your salary. That's $500 million. He just paid like $7 billion to get the team. And now you're going to pay $500 million for a team that's going to go into the second round, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. So that's option one, is to run it back and just be poor. Option two is a couple of different parts. They could just try to get rid of Porzingis. Fine. Porzingis is like $31 million. That would help them get underneath that number. Porzingis with an expiring contract, right? So it's not as scary to take him on because you're like, this is just 1 year and then it's kind of dead money, right? And Porzingis, I do still think has trade value, even though everyone freaked out a little bit once we saw what he did this postseason and last postseason, to be honest, right? Sometimes it's a leg, sometimes it's a chest. We don't know. I hope he's getting better. We actually should get a Porzingis update pretty soon because Eurobasket is right around the corner, which, by the way, for you basketball sickos, if you're not somebody going to Summer League like me, which you should all come out to Summer League for Vegas. You go see Cooper Flag. It's a really good time, even though it's very hot. But if you need some hoops to watch in between WNBA games, go check out some Eurobasket. It's a lot of fun. But supposedly Porzingis is going to be ready and ramp up and play in Eurobasket. Now, maybe he goes out there and is the Eurobasket MVP, and then all of a sudden, Porzingis trade value to the moon. But hopefully he's going to be okay and is healthy and ready to go. And then maybe there's a contender. We mentioned in previous videos like the Golden State Warriors, maybe the Phoenix Suns. Honestly, the Houston Rockets would make some sense. So Porzingis would be an option. That would get you under there. And if it's not going to be Porzingis, there's some other moves you can make too, which would have to include a couple of contracts. Porzingis is a one-for-one. You almost get under just by doing it. Drew Holiday and Sammy Hausekid. Both of their extensions kick in this year. They could move off. You kind of just have to go piece by piece, shipping these guys out to get underneath the second apron. So those are the main options that the Celtics have there. That's one and two. The third option, which we talked a little bit about in previous videos, but honestly, we're going to have to keep talking about it, is Boston Celtics decide they're just going to build around Jason Tatum and Derek White. They've already mentioned that Derek White and Jaylen Brown are untouchable, but I say Tatum and White because you move off of somebody like Jaylen Brown, who's making $300+ million not a year. That would be insane. That would be Saudi soccer money. But moving off of that contract would immediately take care of a lot of that stuff. But what it wouldn't take care of is your on-court product. And again, every time we mention Jaylen Brown, there's always going to be a segment of the Celtics fan and outside of Celtics fandom too that is just like, good, get off him. He's not an elite player. Guys, like, listen, I don't think you understand how max contracts work. Or maybe you do, and you just disagree with me, and that's fine too. But if you don't think Jaylen Brown deserves a max, then you think there should only be 17 maxes handed out. There are 30+ teams. Most, in historically speaking in the NBA, most teams had like 2 maxes or like 1.5, right? Jaylen Brown is a top. You might not think he's a top 15 player. He has made All-NBA before, so he has done that. He has been a top 15 player. I know a lot of people don't love the way he dribbles. Fine, that's fine. Maybe work on your dribbling. I don't care, whatever. He is still an elite wing that can score and defend. He is a top 25 guy in the league. All right, he is. He's just a top 25 guy in the league. I would take him like and a lot of people who are saying you want to move off of him, give me the deal that makes sense. And don't be a nutso about it. Don't be like, "Well, what about Cooper Flag for Jalen Brown?" Nobody's doing that. That's not a deal that's going to happen. So don't give me this make believe. Give me a real thing that you think could happen and I'll listen to it because I don't think there are many deals that are going to be out there unless you are pulling the plug on this current roster and you're going to do a slow rebuild. Like Houston has some interesting pieces, right? But are you really taking on Jalen Green and then like Reed Shepard and a pick or something for Jalen Brown? You want to do that? You want to swap Jalen's? Hard pass. Hard pass. You're frustrated with Jalen Brown's game? Let me introduce you to Jalen Green. No, I don't think so. So until you give me an option that makes sense, I'm not interested. But anyways, those are the three options. So run it back and just be poor, move off of either KP or Holiday and some, or like really pull the plug, set the roster on fire, and start all over again. One of the other players that have been mentioned, maybe Danny Ainge wants to get involved. If John Collins, who has been in trade rumors like he's Miles Turner for the last 10 years, JC, are you with me? But if John Collins opts in to his, I believe, his player option final year, he could be somebody that could be considered in maybe a Porzingis move. If Danny Ainge wants to pull a Kevin McHale and help his former Celtic brethren out, and then Porzingis, as a white person on that Utah roster, hey, you didn't get Cooper Flag? Here's Kristaps Porzingis. We'll pair you up next to Lowry Markkanen. We can just have like an Eastern European. Is Finland considered Eastern European? We could have a European front court. But I think John Collins is somebody that could make sense with this Celtics team. The Celtics are going to be so thin in the bigs, right? Because when we talk about their roster construction earlier, Luke is super expensive, Al's super expensive, KP is somebody we're trying to move, and then Tatum, who was like one of our leading rebounders, is no longer on this roster for he's on the roster, but playable. So you have nobody that's going to rebound on this team. So bringing in somebody like John Collins, I think, could make a ton of sense. And I can hear it in my voice. I'm trying to sell myself on it. I don't feel great about it. I mean, John Collins had that one moment in the Eastern Conference Finals or semifinals, excuse me, when he yammed on Joel Embiid. And then I think he wore a T-shirt of him dunking on Embiid to a post-game press conference, which is badass. But that was, I don't know, 5 years ago? How long ago was that? That Ben Simmons was still relevant. That's how long ago that was. So I don't know if I'm like thrilled to get John Collins in there, but sometimes you just need to change the scenery. But you can feel how hard this is, right? This is not a fun off season for Boston. This is like really, you're scrounging for any sort of love. Other teams that are going to be in some trouble, like I saw an interesting tweet from Bobby Manning, who covers the Celtics. And he went out and said the Celtics might have to move salary in several steps this summer or even into the season. Would expand the number of ways they can make trades this offseason to go that route. Clippers are one of a number of partners who need to send significant money back or to a third team. So the reason I pointed this out is because some other teams are going to have to get involved, right? And if that's the case, like you want to find other teams that also have to shed some of the salary. And he put out, he used the ESPN trade machine to find a deal that would kind of work and make sense. And this is like other teams taking on some salary as well. Now, I'm assuming a pick would be included in this as well. But he was saying you send Drew Holiday to the Clippers, which I hadn't really thought about that, but that does kind of make sense with what the Clippers are in the Drew Holiday age, if you will, with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, Norman Powell, Zubac. Drew Holiday would actually make a ton of sense there. The Celtics would get back Bogdan Bogdanovic, speaking of that Atlanta Hawks team, and Derek Jones Jr. That combined is $26 million. And then Drew Eubanks of the Clippers would also go to the Brooklyn Nets, who would take on a little bit of salary, and I'm assuming would get a pick in. So, again, this is how confusing it is. That's why I mentioned the Charlie Day meme, right? I feel like we really have to dig in to try to figure out what the hell anybody's going to do. We're going to need smarter people than me, I think, to weigh in. So if you have thoughts in the chat on the direction the Celtics should take, and listen, if you want to move off of Jaylen Brown because you don't like his dribbling, that's fine. But do me a favor, put that in the chat. I want to know what deal you're talking about. And it's got to work, because if you're going to tell me I don't understand how contract aggregation works, I need you to tell me, okay? But I appreciate everybody tuning in, even though it just felt like I yelled at you. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe before you get on out of here, and we'll be back with some more Celtics offseason content and hopefully some spicy trade deals, okay? I need to get more excited than I am about John Collins. We'll see you next time.